When Christians ask each other how they're doing, it's common to hear the person being asked to respond, "I'm blessed." What does it really mean to be blessed? Does it mean you're healthy, wealthy, and successful? Does it mean everything's going your way? Does it mean you always get the best parking spots and you're never stuck in traffic? Let's consider an example in the Bible of a woman who was said to be blessed. In 2 Kings, we read about a Shunammite woman who fed Elijah every time he came to her town. Eventually, she convinced her husband to add a room to their house so Elijah would have a place to stay. Elijah wanted to bless the Shunammite woman, so he asked what could be done for her. The woman didn't want anything, so Elijah decided to bless her with a son. Elijah said to her, "About this time next year, you will hold a son in your arms." And guess what? It happened. What a blessing. The child grew. One day he was helping his father in the field when he had a terrible pain in his head. The woman held her son in her arms and he died. Her blessing turned to suffering, pain, and grief. The woman took her son and laid him on the bed in Elijah's room. Then she went to get Elijah. It's interesting to me that when Elijah's servant saw the woman coming, he said to her, "Is everyone in your family all right?" And she responded, "Everything is all right." I wonder why she said that when everything obviously was not all right. Well, Elijah's response to the situation was to send his servant to the house with instructions to lay his staff on the boy. That didn't work. So Elijah went to the boy. Elijah prayed, and then he lay on top of the boy's body 2 times. When he did that, the boy's body grew warm. He sneezed 7 times, and then he opened his eyes. That's a really interesting story, but what can we learn from this story of the Shunammite woman? Well, the first lesson is that God blesses us to make us a steward of his resources. The Shunammite woman used the resources given to her by God to care for Elijah whenever he came to town, and she didn't expect anything in return. In the New Testament, we're told to look out for the interests of others. Philippians 2:4. Another lesson we can learn from this story is to listen to God. God will let you know when he wants you to bless others. It might be something that most people would consider to be a small act, like paying for the person behind you in the drive-through line. Or it might be something that people would think of as a big act, like becoming a foster parent. Every response to God is important because you never know how he's going to use it. The key is that you are willing to act on the prompting of the Holy Spirit and bless others with no expectation of something in return. Another lesson is that God will stretch our faith. God's ways are higher than our ways. He doesn't do things to us. He does things for us. We don't always understand, but God is working in every situation. God's perspective is different from ours, and he's the only one who knows what we need. The faith of the Shunammite woman was definitely stretched, and she remained faithful. The truth that we don't really want to hear is that our faith can't grow unless it's tested. When we look at difficult situations through earthly eyes, we see the pain. However, I've witnessed over and over that a deep relationship with God comes from painful situations. We can't see the benefits of the pain until we're on the other side of it. Bad things happen in our lives, but God will use those bad things if we'll let Him. God doesn't waste anything. And the last lesson we can learn is that God always works for our good and His glory. In the story of the Shunammite woman, her son was saved, but not every situation turns out that way. Even when events don't go as we would like them to go, God knows what's best. We can trust Him to work everything for our good. Ask yourself some questions. Do I live each day with a focus on being a blessing to others? When I help others, do I keep an attitude of service without expecting anything in return? How do I respond to trials and testing in my life? Do I get bitter? Or do I allow God to draw me closer to Him? Do I trust God to have a good plan for my life no matter what? The story of the Shunammite woman makes me think of a song called Firm Foundation. Maybe you've heard it. Just listen to these words. When everything around me is shaken, I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, because He's never let me down. He's faithful through every season. So why would He fail now? I hope you'll listen to that song, and I hope it's a blessing to you. Maybe it'll remind you of some of the lessons we've learned from this story of the Shunammite woman. Well, you have a great week. And until next time, keep walking with Jesus.